September 1st, 1974. Langenburg, Saskatchewan, Canada. For farmer Edwin Fuhr, a routine chore turns into one of the most frightening experiences of his life.
Fuhr observed this object near the ground. He stopped and went over very close to it. And he could see it was metallic looking. It was flat on the bottom. It was domed on top. It was hovering just a foot or so above the ground.
And he's 15 feet in daylight away from an object. No sound. It's spinning, rotating at a very high rate. In the surface of this thing, he said, it had a very old and used up appearance. And in it, he could see dark sort of grooves. At the base, he could see a sort of wide belt that went around the lower section.
Shocked at what he encounters, Fuhr slowly retreats back to his tractor, hoping to escape from the object. As he climbs back on, his shock turns to terror when he realizes it's not just one UFO, but an entire fleet.
And he could see there were four more, and they were sort of equidistant from each other in a semicircle around the high grass. All same type of objects, same configuration, same color, all rotating.
The ground, or the crop underneath the object, was spun in a spiral. And the plants were rotated and knocked down underneath each one of these.
After hovering in the field for a few minutes, the objects begin their ascent.
The objects ascended silently, vertically, in a step formation. Object 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as they ascended vertically, silently, he could see beneath each object two vent-like extensions, out of which there came a 6-foot-long plume of gray material.
Shortly after, the objects disappear. After Fuhr's encounter, Constable Ronald Morier of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police receives word of the event and visits the Fuhr property. The physical evidence that he discovers puzzles the investigators.
Here were 5 rings, all swirled, compressed, in the same direction, all counterclockwise. And the central area in each of the rings was unaffected. The grass was standing up normally. And their sizes ranged from 8 foot in diameter to 11 feet in diameter. And Morier's conclusion, after a full and extensive investigation, impressed me considerably. He said, this really happened, and whatever made these rings came out of the air and left the same way. And that pretty well says it.
I took off, and then they stopped over top of my head, and that really scared me, because then they could do anything, they could come straight down. And you could see the bottom of it, you could see these ports from the bottom. It was just like a gray vapor, that's all you could see. Like, it was cold that day. I thought maybe it was the exhaust or steam.
Well, I was scared at the time when I was sitting there, because I was only 15 feet from him, and I didn't know what it was. You know, I thought it was somebody that was hunting, had a goose blind, because it was a very shiny machine, and it was turning. It was about 15 inches off the ground, and you could see right underneath through it. And I thought to myself, I just wonder what the hell this could be. And you sure as heck, you couldn't walk up to it because you froze. I sat there, and I thought, well, gee whiz, you know, I kept looking at my time. It's getting later and later, and they wouldn't move. They just sat there. And every time I figured I should walk a little closer, I couldn't. I was just like, I was welded to the ground. It lit up the whole north end of town. Like the sky was all lit up. There was 3 machines. There was 3 big ones and 2 small ones, and they were flanking the 3 big ones in the center, and they were from 30 feet in diameter to 35 feet in diameter.
It's fact, because they have seen unusual spacecraft and strange beings that obviously are not of this planet. They claim that the aliens have already made their existence known to us.
We were waiting and waiting for him to come. We had dinner on the table waiting for him, and when he came in, he just kind of sat there. He didn't really know if he should eat or what he should do, and then all of a sudden we asked him, is there something wrong? And well, then he started telling us. I just thought, well, if he'd seen him, he's seen him, you know. I didn't go out to the field right away that day. I went out the next day first to look at them, the circles.
There was droves and droves of cars and planes flying over top, and there was everything under the sun. And then the RCP showed up, and they brought their dogs along, and the dogs wouldn't go in those circles, and they couldn't figure out what's the matter. Why wouldn't they go in there? I'm a spectator just as well as all the rest are, because whatever was out there, you know, you're curious. It draws you right to the spot, and you just stand there and look and look and look. I had people standing there for hours on end just looking at it, and I said, well, what do you see looking at? He says, it draws you to the site.
If someone tells you,
oh,
I don't believe you, like what?
Well, I says, I wish you don't. I says, why are you bothering me if you don't believe it? Because if you're bothering me, you must be believing it. And they don't say too much. They just, you know, get all red in the face. So I don't know. It doesn't bother me.